Hey guys, welcome to Savvy Programmer, and my name is RB, and this is the iOS tutorial where I'm going to teach you to create a game called Guessing Game. And this is the app that we're going to actually do. Look at this. So this is the game that we're going to actually create together. It's going to be about 8 tutorials, maybe about 10 tutorials, but we're going to teach you step by step to create this game. And you can see this screen right here is the first screen we're going to build today. It's called Welcome to Guessing Game. You can name it any kind of title you want, and you have a play now button with an image. So you're gonna learn how to create this user interface, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. Let's get started. As tutorial, and today we're gonna make that guessing game. So let's go ahead and start. If you don't have Xcode, Xcode, if you don't have that, you can go to the App Store. Just type in App Store and look for App Store, and then go ahead and launch App Store, and you can install Xcode. It does take an hour to install. So go ahead and return to this tutorial after you've installed it. So let's go ahead and start. Those people who already have Xcode, go ahead and start Xcode. And when you get to the you're not gonna have this project yet, so go ahead and just click on File, and then click on New, and go ahead click on New Project. And when you see the screen pop up just like this, and you see the single view app highlighted, that's when you click on Next. And then go ahead and just type in any name that you want for this project. It could be guessing game tutorial like I have, or it could be any name that you want. The theme, don't worry about that, just select none now. If you have a developer account, you can get it at developer.apple.com, and then you can actually have a theme then. But since you don't have a theme now, you just select none. If you do have one, select your theme. And then go ahead, select your organization name, which is just any name for your organization. And the organization identifier just starts with an org, and then the organization name, and then .com. And then the bundle identifier is already automatically populated for you. Go ahead and select the language for Swift, and select Storyboard for the user interface, please. And once you've selected all those, you're gonna click on Next, and when you press Next, and it will give you like where you want to install it, and just press OK, and then you should get to this screen where we're at. So it will have the single view application, has app delegate, scene delegate, so it has kind of pre-populated code for you, so you kind of can start without writing too much code, but it does give us enough to start. So what we're gonna work on today is the storyboard. This is the visual of basically the app. So if I go ahead and start. So what we're gonna do is actually we're gonna go ahead and start getting all our assets. I provided all the assets in this folder. So I'm gonna have a link below to get all the assets. So the assets that we're gonna use are, we're gonna use fonts, special font. So I'm gonna go ahead and drag that. So when you download the font, go ahead and drag it underneath the guessing tutorial, like just underneath the second folder. Go ahead, drag there, and then it's gonna say copy item. Make sure this is checked, the copy items, and create groups, and make sure it's also added to the target of the name of your project, which is the guessing game tutorial for me, but I don't know what it is for you. And click on finish, and that will add a reference of the font that you've installed. We're gonna use the machine gun font, and basically it's gonna give you a reference. And make sure when you go here and you select the font. So if I go to the font underneath the I want to make sure it's installed. So make sure this is highlighted as a target membership. So that means this is included inside the project. So that's the font we need for this. And another thing we do need is the assets. So it's buttons and graphics that we need. So for that, go click on this asset.xc assets. If you click on that, you're gonna see a section where you can just go ahead and drag it over, and it should already auto-populate everything that you want. And basically this is the two button we're gonna work with today, and then we're gonna work with this oval thing, and that's it. So go ahead and get to your storyboard again. So if you don't have storyboard open, you can also look for it by pressing Command-Shift-O in the storyboard, and it would basically select the story when you click on that. So go ahead and open the storyboard, and we're gonna click on the view. This is actually the view that we're gonna work with. This is the starting point of an app. Every app has many views. So the views are each screen that you see. Like you see one screen, and then you press a button and get to the next screen. So that's kind of like the view. We're gonna talk about it later about the controller and view controller, but view controller is basically what controls this view. iOS has both of them together, view controller. So that's why you see this is actually a view controller that has a view. So this is the view, but it has a controller. So the controller is what controls it, like all the logic that I'm gonna write behind it. So that's why it's called view controller. But I'm gonna talk about it later in the tutorial when we're talking about object-oriented programming and MVC, which is the architecture that this is using. So let me go ahead and start getting this ready. So what I'm gonna do is click on the property inspector, and I'm gonna go ahead and change the background color to black. If it's not black for you, go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm sure some of you guys already had a white background. So actually I turned it into black. So in order to turn that to black, you click on this right here, and you press and go to the property inspector, and you click on this view right here, the view, and you go click on property inspector, and under the background, select the black color. So because we want a black background for that game. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a title, a label. So in order to add something to the storyboard, all you need to do is basically you click on plus sign right here, and you press the label. You select label, or you can actually type in label. That's how you can populate. If you don't see it, just type in label and drag over the label, and you can see kind of like there's a line drawn that actually shows that it's in the center of the view. And I'm gonna go ahead and say that, and I'm gonna go ahead and select the font. Remember we installed the custom font. So if you select the font here and click on the custom, then you're gonna see a family. You can change that family to, let's see, machine gun. That's what we wanted, right? And we also want the color of that font to be white. So as I was saying, this is the, remember we talked last time about the property inspector. This is basically I'm inspecting the property of this label, and I'm changing the color and I'm changing the font, and that's what we're doing. And this is the view that we're working with, where we actually inserted the label. So go ahead and change the size of the font to 36 and type in guessing game. We could just say welcome to guessing game. And I want to go ahead and So what I want to do also is I want to be able to put this on multiple lines. In order to do that, if you see underneath the alignment is lines, go ahead and put that to 0. What that means is I can go ahead and have multiple lines, and I want to go ahead and also center this. So now we're gonna work with something called auto layout. Auto layout lays the whole layout using constraints. It's basically constraints are what kind of pushes the layout on the left and the right and top and bottom. It determines the width and the height. And if you have many different layout items, like basically a label or image, how far are they apart from each other? What is the distance of the left leading or trailing? That's what we call it, leading or trailing, or top and bottom constraints. What is the width and height? Is the center? So it's basically you're telling the computer how to lay out these items so it would work on all different sizes and dimensions of iOS platforms, like iPad and different iPhone 4, iPhone 8, iPhone X, iPhone X Pro, iPhone 8. So basically those. So go ahead and let's start with auto layout. The auto layout works like this. So you're gonna see on the bottom to align, add new constraints, resolve, and embed. So I'm gonna go ahead and choose the first one. I want to go ahead and align this label center to the center of the view. So in order to do that, I choose a horizontal in container. What that means, it's horizontally centering the label to the center of the view. So if I press that and say add one constraint, I want to add one constraint that takes the center of this label and equals it to the center of the view. So that way I'm centered, right? So that's what I'm going to do. So once I add constraints, it's going to tell me I need one more constraint in order to satisfy the auto layout, because it only knows the center. So it only knows the left, the leading, and the trailing now, but it doesn't have any top constraints. It wants a top constraint. So in order to do that, I'm gonna go ahead and click on this button. So it's the third from the left. Once I click on that, and I'm gonna click on the top constraint, and this drop down tells me that okay, it's safe area. Safe area is basically for iPhone 8 and iPhone X, actually the ones that don't have the home button. So the safe area is where you don't constrict any controls above. So basically you want to be able to be in the safe area. It's safe areas on the top and the bottom. So I want to be in the safe area, which is the distance to the safe area is 25. So that's what I want, yes. And I want to be 25 points from the safe area. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. So there you go. So now I don't have any more auto layout issues, and all the reds are gone because I've satisfied the auto layout. So I think the font is a little too big, so we're gonna go ahead, because I know on iOS iPhone 4 it's gonna, or iPhone SE it's not gonna work. So we're gonna go ahead and bump it down to 30, just to make sure we're good on that. And if it does go down, it's gonna go to two lines. So we're gonna go ahead and keep that and add an image. In order to add an image, what we're gonna do is, again, just press the plus button. It's basically next to your show and hide code review. So you hover on it, it says library, just press plus and type in image. And I'm gonna go ahead and drag it Okay, and now I want to select again. So now whenever I select a component, so an image view, I have the property inspector, and I can go ahead and drill down and select that I have an image, and I know I have an oval. So I'm going to type in oval, and I'm going to go and select that. So now it's in the center. So what do I do again? I add auto layout constraints. So the auto layout constraints I'm going to add is, again, I'm going to align it to the horizontal in the container. So basically I'm going to align the center horizontally to the center of the view. Okay, there you go. And I need also, what do I need? I need top constraints, because I don't have, Autolayout has no way to determine what's going on with the top or bottom, right? So I'm going to go ahead and add a top constraints, and in order to add that again, and if you press this drop down, it says I'm 72.5 points away from the label. So basically you can also select that you want the constraints from the view or the safe area. So I'm going to select welcome to the guessing game, which is my title, and I want to be able to be, so right now it's 72. I want to do like maybe 30. Add that constraints. There you go. So now I have two constraints that are, Autolayout is happy. And you can also, if you make a mistake with the constraints, you can go ahead, click on here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th, the ruler. You see a ruler icon. Scroll down, and you can actually see the constraints here. The top space constraint, and also align center X to the super view. The super view is the view that we were talking about. Remember I told you about the view? So this is the view, the super view. So we call it super because these are the children of the super view. So basically, if I click on this, I can go ahead and edit it. I can edit it right there, and I can also delete it if I wanted to, and you can also delete it here if I wanted to. So if you made a mistake, delete the whole constraint and start over. And again, you need 2 center constraints. You go here again, do horizontal and container, align center X. So center X, you need center X for the label and the image. So now we're gonna go ahead and add the last component for our main screen for the guessing game. And that one will be, again, plus, and you type in, so what do I need? I need a button, right? So I'm going to do button. I'm going to drag the button over, and for the button, I want to be able to have 2 button states. So buttons have states. What states are basically, if I press a button, that's a highlighted state, because I'm highlighting the button, I'm selecting it, and then the default state is when it's not selected, and then there's also a selected state and a highlighted state. So you can set 2 different states. The selected state is basically when you select it. Highlighted is when you actually highlight it. But you don't have to use all the states, so I'm gonna use 2 states for the button. I'm gonna use the default state and the highlighted state. So I'm gonna go ahead and select the button. I'm gonna go to the properties inspector. I'm gonna put a default image. So I'm gonna have a default image. So I'm gonna go look at my assets to make sure my assets are, what are they? They call button play and highlighted, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and here. So button play is the default state. And I'm gonna also, buttons always have a title, so go ahead and remove that. It's a huge button, so you might want to resize it. So if you go ahead and select underneath the type, make sure on the state config you select highlighted. So we're gonna select the highlighted. So I'm gonna say highlighted. It's not finding my highlighted, so let me see, make sure I spelled it right. Let me see. Highlighted. I can change the name, so I'm gonna go ahead and change it. Button play. Okay, so I can go ahead and go to Storyboard again and select that, and I want the highlighted state, and I'm gonna say button play highlighted. See, so now it's the highlighted version, and it's gonna, whenever it's highlighted and it's default, it's not highlighted. So now we're gonna go ahead and set the constraints. So the constraints are again the center X constraints, the horizontal center to the center of the view. And I'm gonna also select top constraint. And the top constraints is the, so I want to be able to be oval. Also, another thing that happens, make sure, like, if you don't see the neighboring control, like the image and all that, so maybe if you can zoom in and make sure it's not overlapping each other. They're not overlapping each other. So let me go ahead and add that constraint again. So you press that one again and press the top constraints, because I want the top constraints, and add that, and I'm done. So I want to also have a width and height for this because it's kind of too big. So I'm gonna go ahead and type add width and height constraints. I probably want, so I can actually let's see, go ahead and resize it. So make sure whenever you select the auto layout, you have it selected, and then go ahead and add the width and height. So I think the width and height, I'm gonna do 210 and 50. So actually now it's gonna resize it. And there you go. It's a little so you can Command Z it and you can go back, but it was a little wrong. 210 and 85. There you go. Okay, now it's better. So go ahead and, so you're done with the first UI tutorial actually. So we covered the auto layout. We also covered how to create colors and add two highlighted states for a button, an image, and also another thing with the image is when you click on the image, there's two content mode. There's aspect fit and aspect fill. Fill is basically, it fills the whole content. Fit, it fits the proportion, and it could also scale to fill. It makes it super big. The reason it's not changing right now is because it's I have already the constraints set. So let's go ahead and run this. So you can also select the iPhone Pro Max or any other ones. There you go. So you have the, you can press play and it has two states as you can see, and you have the title and the image, and everything is working fine. So you have your first screen for the guessing game tutorial. I'm very excited to teach you this. So If you have any questions, please post in the comments below. And I'm gonna have a tutorial again next Sunday, continuing this game until we're done with the game. And I'm gonna also have a more advanced tutorial later. So this is the stepping stone to become a professional iOS developer. So if you want any other tutorial, let me know. And see you until next time.